As the years go on, the more I realize that the 2017 Jacksonville Jaguars had the most absurd playoff run in NFL history. Now, what's the big deal? We've seen one-hit wonders in the NFL all the time, whether it's a player or team. Because after doing some research, I have come to the conclusion that the 2017 Jacksonville Jaguars had the biggest one-hit wonder season in NFL history. We'll go over how that came to be, and later on, you'll be hearing from a real-life Jaguars fan, if you can believe one exists. Entering 2017, the Jaguars lost 11 or more games for 6 straight seasons and did it all without managing to secure the first overall pick. Gus Bradley ended his tenure as head coach with a 14-48 record. At the time, he had the second worst winning percentage in NFL history as a head coach. That was not going to fly with the new executive vice president of football operations and the first coach in Jaguars history, Tom Coughlin. While David Caldwell was the general manager by title, Coughlin had the final say in football matters. Considering his resume as a 2-time Super Bowl champion, I don't think too many within the organization were going to argue with any of his decisions, including who the next head coach would be. Doug Marrone had quit the Buffalo Bills thanks to a strange contract clause that let him collect $4 million even though he opted out. He was banking on getting another head coaching job right away, and that's exactly what happened. It wasn't viewed as the sexiest hire. He only had a 15-17 record in Buffalo with 0 playoff appearances. With 22 wins in the past 6 seasons and coming off of a 3-13 record, Coughlin immediately got to work. They signed a bunch of free agents during the offseason. Strong safety Barry Church signed for 4 years, $26 million. Defensive end Calais Campbell signed 4 years for $60 million. Cornerback AJ Bounier signed a 5-year, $67.5 million deal in an effort to retool the defense. As far as the offensive side of the ball, they felt they had enough key pieces to develop. In the 2017 NFL Draft, they selected running back Leonard Fournette with the 4th overall pick, pairing him up with their first-round quarterback from 2014 in Blake Bortles. Their other first-round pick from 2016, cornerback Jalen Ramsey, was already looking like a stud. With all of these acquisitions, they were still expected to be the doormats of the league. This Deadspin article from 2017 says it all. Why your team sucks 2017. Jacksonville Jaguars. The article pretty much rips the team to shreds, saying how all of these moves don't matter, they're still gonna suck, just look at their history. But perhaps their week 1 matchup against the Houston Texans was an indicator that this season could very well be different.
And for the first time since 2011, 2,191 days, the Jacksonville Jaguars are over 500.
The defense was scary good. Tayshaun Gibson had an interception. Calais Campbell recorded 4 sacks. In total, the team ended week 1 with 9 sacks as well as a defensive touchdown by Dante Fowler Jr. While the offense had Leonard Fournette lead the way with 100 rushing yards in his first career start. And really, it was from this point that the 2017 Jacksonville Jaguars took off. Well, sort of. By the time they reached their bye in week 8, they were sitting at a 4-3 record, which was extremely impressive considering they only won 3 games a season ago. But really, they were just scratching the surface as they would go on to win 6 of their next 7 games. And in their only loss against the Arizona Cardinals, it was by 3 points. And just like that, after 15 weeks, they were sitting at 10-4. Their 45-7 win against the Houston Texans was certainly the peak of their regular season. Jacksonville finished at the top of the league in multiple defensive categories and were considered historically good. The Jags defense led the league in forced fumbles, completion percentage, passing yards allowed per game, game passer rating and defensive touchdowns. The offense got better as time went along. In that 45-7 W over the Texans, Blake Bortles completed 21 of 29 passes for 326 yards. It felt like the passing game was peaking at the right time, but the running game was certainly always there. Leonard Fournette ran for just a little over 1,000 yards his rookie season as the Jacksonville Jaguars went from 3-13 to 10-6, clinching the AFC South Division. By all accounts, just making it in and hosting a home playoff game should have been good enough, but it wasn't. In the wildcard round against the Buffalo Bills, Jacksonville won 10-3, truly a defensive battle. The only touchdown was scored in the third quarter with Bortles throwing for 87 yards, but at least he led the team with 88 rushing yards. Jacksonville just won its first playoff game in a decade. Before beating Buffalo, their last playoff win had came in 2007 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, in the 2017 divisional round, they would have to travel there. This would actually be their second time playing each other in 2017, as Jacksonville dismantled them early in the season, winning 30-9. Even though they did this at Pittsburgh, they were going back this time for the playoffs, and the assumption was it was a great run, but now the Steelers are going to dismantle them and move on to the AFC Championship against the Patriots.
Pop three, rolling around, and it's scooped up the speed of Telvin Smith. Goodbye! Touchdown, Jaguars!
In a playoff stunner, Jacksonville was up 28-14 at halftime. Not only stunning that they're in the lead, but their offense is carrying the way. The defense pitched a first quarter shutout, then proceeded to give up 42 points in 3 straight quarters. Josh Lambo's 45-yard field goal with less than 2 minutes left was pretty much the game clincher. And just like that, the Jacksonville Jaguars, from 3-13 to an AFC Championship appearance.
It's over. The Jacksonville Jaguars have pulled off the upset of the playoffs. The Jaguars are in the AFC Championship game.
From league doormats to the country's Cinderella story, everyone, and I mean everyone, except Patriots fans of course, wanted to see Brady and Belichick lose. The first 3 quarters went exactly the way Jacksonville wanted it to.
Today, they hand it off Fournette. He's driving, and he's in for the touchdown. Wow. Take that.
You had the veteran Mercedes Lewis and the newcomer Leonard Fournette scoring touchdowns, while the defense allowed just 1 touchdown during the second quarter. After 3 quarters, Jacksonville was beating New England 17-10, 1 quarter away from knocking off the defending Super Bowl champions. The greatest coach and quarterback ever were on the ropes against a team that was just assembled less than a year ago. It felt like Jacksonville was on their way to the Super Bowl. The peak of this run was when Myles Jack forced a strip fumble for a touchdown and put the Jaguars up 27-10. Or it was supposed to be. In one of the most controversial calls you'll ever see in a playoff game, they ruled Jack was down. Was he really down, or did a quick whistle rob Myles Jack of a fumble return for a touchdown and a Super Bowl appearance for the Jaguars? I'd say it was the catalyst, because nothing went right after that. Once the Patriots got the ball back, in just a little over 3 minutes and 9 plays, Tom Brady threw a touchdown to Danny Amendola. But with plenty of time left and a 3-point lead, all Jacksonville needed to do was hold on to the ball for long periods of time, and if they end up losing the ball, get it back quickly on defense. Their next drive went for 7 plays and over 2 minutes, ending with a punt, while New England's next drive lasted under 30 seconds. For Jacksonville, this next drive could be the difference between watching at home or playing in the biggest game of their lives. Turns out it would be the worst drive of the game, lasting 4 plays for -1 yard and lasting for only 55 seconds. Just enough time for Brady and the Patriots to march downfield and put together a game-winning drive.
Fake it to White. Looking around. Has time. Throws it. Did he get the feet down? What an effort. Touchdown, Amendola.
Danny Amendola caught the game-winning 4-yard touchdown pass, and while Jacksonville did get the ball back, it ended with a turnover on downs. Just like that, their Cinderella story was over, as the New England Patriots went on to beat the Jacksonville Jaguars 24-20. And even though there was an obvious sense of disappointment, from Jacksonville fans, you still got the sense that, hey, we were just happy to be here. It was amazing to see them go toe-to-toe with perhaps the greatest dynasty in NFL history, but little did anyone know that this game would actually turn out to be their peak. By the time the 2020 season rolled around, all of the major key pieces from this team were gone, and Jacksonville was once again in rebuild mode. Out of all of the wild moves, Blake Bortles' extension was extremely confusing. He gets an extension after the season, then follows that up by being released. Age, free agency, and locker room drama eventually took their toll, as Tom Coughlin's inability to adapt with younger players clearly showed. While he had the ability to put together a solid team, he also had the ability to tear it apart extremely quickly. It got so bad to the point where the NFL Players Association needed to step in, as it seemed like all of a sudden nobody wanted to play in Jacksonville again. Once Coughlin was officially let go, the Jaguars began the process of rebuilding, and we've now arrived to this point. Jacksonville is still looking for that first Super Bowl appearance. To put it in perspective how massive the fall was for Jacksonville, the next time the Jaguars and the Patriots played after the AFC title game was 4 years later, and they lost 50-10. And now that we're more than 5 years removed from this season, the absurdness of this run grows year by year. And even though they never won a Super Bowl, I feel Jaguars fans should still treat this team as if they did.
Should we view the 2017 Jags positively or negatively? And coming from the perspective of a Jags fan, I can certainly say that we definitely don't have any qualms about this team. Because if you remove the 2017 Jags from the equation, I truly believe the 2010s Jacksonville Jaguars have a case for the worst decade in NFL history. And I know the Jags are often forgotten about by the rest of the league, and usually for good reason. But watching those 2010s Jags teams, it looked like they didn't even belong in the league. Like some of those 2010s Jags rosters, you probably couldn't even name a single player in hindsight 10 years later. So let's just say the 2017 season for the Jags was definitely a welcome surprise for people in Jacksonville, where I'd compare it to taking someone dying in the desert and giving them water. So of course we're going to look back on that team fondly. I mean, it's not like we have anything else to celebrate in the 2010s. But even beyond the point of that team being the only good Jags team for 10 years, there are still qualities about that team that I like in and of themselves. You had rookie Leonard Fournette being a beast, Jalen Ramsey finally coming into his prime. But I think the most underrated part of this team that never gets discussed is playoff Blake Bortles. We got to witness, as NFL fans, playoff Blake Bortles. And to me, that's something that you can never take away. And you know what? Credit where credit is due. Blake Bortles, kind of a shabby career, not that good, not exactly what we're looking for in Jacksonville, but this one season, he played well. And we almost, and I mean almost, got to see Super Bowl Blake Bortles. That would have been the ultimate sight. A lot of people forget how close that AFC Championship was versus New England, where people were thinking, okay, they're going to go up to Foxborough, Brady's going to go insane, throw for like 500 yards, and they're going to get crushed, which is really what had happened in like almost all the AFC Championship games in the 2010s. But no, the Jaguars went into Foxborough and they played well. They played admirably. And they were winning in the fourth quarter, but once again, Tom Brady does what he did to all the other teams in the league. Ripped our hearts out, and we didn't get to quite make it to the promised land. But you know what? Based on all the other putrid football that we had to bear witness to during that decade, I'd say it was still a pleasant surprise. And you know the whole thing about the team basically imploding immediately, I can't really feel that bad about it. I mean, Blake Bortles, as well as he played that season, it was clear he wasn't really a franchise guy. Even immediately after that season, when the Jags front office offered that big contract to Bortles, I know that the fan base was kind of pretty hesitant about it. And it didn't end up working out. The team basically regressed almost instantaneously back to being awful, back to being in the basement. But you know what? In Jacksonville, we're used to taking the good times when we get them, because they sure as hell don't come along very often. And at the very least, we gotta make Urinating Tree blow a gasket by defeating his heavily favored Pittsburgh Steelers in the AFC Divisional.
The absolute arrogance of this squad from top to bottom.
So regardless of everything else that happened, this team will always have that accomplishment. And for that, we thank them.
I don't think we'll ever see anything like this again. A team going from 3-13 to nearly making the Super Bowl and then going back into complete irrelevance less than 3 years later. And for every season Jacksonville misses out on the Super Bowl or doesn't even make the playoffs, the legend of this 2017 season will continue to grow. As the 2017 Jacksonville Jaguars, still called some today as Saxonville, will be labeled as the greatest one-hit wonder season in NFL history.